Thanks to the Steam Deck's announcement, our favourite racist and Nintendo fanboy has gone into a deep state of depression and has decided in a last-ditch attempt to upload a video trying to prove how bad the Steam Deck is, even though it looks like a great product. So without further delay, I'll let the video play.
Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee, owner of blackcatbooks.org, author of Cruel and Beautiful, Eye of the Dragon, Rabbit Hole, and King Dio.
I will never be able to understand why this guy flexes his bookstore in every video, when it's the complete opposite of a flex. But I'm probably expecting way too much self-awareness from Harman Smith, considering all the insane things he said in the past.
The desperation of the PC gaming community, the PC gaming gods, Valve, is unbelievable.
You know, I'm sure Valve is really desperate for money right now. With them owning the biggest gaming storefront on PC, I doubt they're making much money, to be honest. But in all seriousness, this single handheld PC crashed the entirety of Steam worldwide, and people still think it's going to fail. I mean, I wish I could say at this point that my faith in humanity has not been brutally beaten to such a low point that I'd expect this reaction from people, but that sadly wouldn't be true.
This company is desperately trying to keep itself relevant in the current year. We've seen them in the past sort of like decay and become irrelevant with refusing to release new Half-Life games and an inability to continue making new interesting properties.
This man is really trying to claim that Valve has fallen into irrelevancy. Valve has never even come close to being irrelevant, and it's almost impossible for it to do so, thanks to them owning the biggest gaming storefront on PC. Even if they were quote unquote irrelevant, then the Steam Deck just made them relevant. The amount of hype surrounding this is undeniable, and the deck is far from irrelevant, and I have no idea why he thinks there hasn't been a Half-Life game in a while, because Half-Life Alyx exists.
What was the last time they released a new IP? Like fucking Portal? Like in 2007? Like it's unbelievable how far they've fallen in recent years, and how little people actually call them out on it.
Yeah, because Valve isn't primarily a developer anymore. They're a hardware company as well as a storefront. Developing games is the least of their priorities, and it has been that way for years. So I have no idea why you're still in a 2007 mindset of Valve developing games, and it being one of their main sources of income. Expecting Valve to act like a console manufacturer is pure stupidity.
And the most recent example of Valve being completely irrelevant is their newest console.
I don't know who told you it was a console, but it is nowhere near to a console. It's not closed down to one OS or storefront like a console is. The Steam Deck is simply a handheld PC, not a console. Plus, if anything, the Steam Deck shows how they aren't irrelevant. If you pre-order it right now, you won't be getting the 512GB version until Q3 2022, due to how high the demand for this is. And even me, as someone who got a reservation on the same day they went live, I more than likely won't receive mine until Q2 2022.
Their newest handheld, the Steam Deck, which is, in fact, a Switch knockoff. That's all it is. Like, it looks exactly the same. It has the same sort of, like, design to it.
I can't even lie, the systems do not look the same outside of the basic handheld shape. And even still, they're shaped differently. But either way, it's ironic that the supposed Switch knockoff is superior to the Switch.
Like, Valve just doesn't have the software support. Well, for one thing, doesn't have the software support to support a Steam Deck. Like, the thing about the Steam Deck is that, like, it's just gonna be like a handheld gaming PC. So basically everything that's on Steam is on the Steam Deck, and there's nothing on Steam.
I struggle to see how this could get more ironic. Every time a new game gets announced, Nintendo fans are left there in the dark begging companies to tell them if the games are on the Switch or not. That won't be asked by people using the Steam Deck because all the games they want to play will be available on it. Unlike the Switch, which constantly gets forgotten about or ends up with horrific ports like Doom Eternal on it, due to its ridiculously outdated hardware. Saying there is nothing on Steam is a flat out lie, and I expected nothing better from the guy, who is known as a Nintendo extremist. Put it this way, the word fanboy doesn't do justice for this man.
Why would I want... The Steam Deck is going to be a more expensive alternative to the Switch that's not going to have any of the superior software that makes the Switch desirable. And of course, like, I didn't see like any Joy-Cons, like there are no motion controls. Like, we're going to see this thing come out and just
I swear to God, can this man finish one fucking sentence instead of switching to a new point mid-sentence like he always does? It's genuinely pissing me off now. The Steam Deck doesn't have built-in Joy-Cons because it's literally pointless. It's a gimmick only Switch games utilize, which no one will miss. Also, the Steam Deck technically does have a form of motion controls via gyro.
It'll be like VR all over again. It'll be like the Steam box all over again.
VR is a market that Valve has thrived in thanks to the Valve Index, and the Steam machine failed because of the older version of SteamOS that didn't utilize Proton, and on top of that the Steam machine was manufactured by Alienware, unlike the Deck, which will be manufactured by Valve.
Where you're going to have like a number of hardcore Valve fanboys buy them day one. Valve will declare the console a success, and then they'll quietly cancel it.
Valve has already said that they plan on creating more iterations of the Steam Deck, as long as it is a success, and so far the thing crashed Steam worldwide and was number 3 on the top sellers page of Steam, which is based off of revenue, so for a $5 reservation to be 3rd place on Steam is insane. The amount of reservations needed for that to become 3rd place revenue wise is incredibly high. As long as the system is a success, unlike the Steam machine, Valve will not drop support for it, and so far it's looking very unlikely for it to fail.
Like, it just can't compete. Like, it's the same problem with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, right? The same problem with Apple Arcade. Like, there's no demand for new gaming platforms.
I'm sorry, what? Does this guy unironically think that there is no demand for new hardware? If that was the fucking case, then we'd all still be playing on PlayStation 1s and N64s, my guy. Also, the fact that the PS5 is sold out everywhere completely proves this insanely ignorant statement wrong. Also, the Nintendo community alone proves this statement to be false, as they've been begging for a Switch Pro for months, if not years.
Like, that's it. Like, people don't want to admit this, they don't want to acknowledge this, but the market is completely saturated. People don't want new gaming hardware. Like, people just want new, exciting games on the hardware they already have. The Nintendo hardware. Just make new, interesting games for Nintendo Switch. That's all anybody expects. Yet, somehow, you have a handful of people who are insistent, who refuse to admit that truth.
Ah yes, the majority of the gaming industry as well as developers are simply a handful of people. Unlike you, the majority of people can't play Mario Golf alone for the rest of their life. They need actually engaging games to exist, like most games which can't run on the Switch. Most people want new hardware, especially from Nintendo. Also, I love how he tries to say that all anyone expects is new games for the Switch, when it's becoming increasingly difficult to make games for the Switch, due to how outdated its hardware is.
Right? You have a handful of people who are just adamantly insisting that, like, oh man, we can make Google Stadia work, we can make Apple Arcade work, we can make Amazon Vela work. What the fuck is like the Amazon streaming service? I don't even know what it's called. That's how irrelevant it is. Luna, yeah, Amazon Luna. We're gonna make Amazon Luna work. Like, no.
I have to partially agree with him here due to how brain dead Amazon Luna's business model is. They want you to pay an individual subscription to play games from each developer / publisher. Right now, to play all the games on their service, it will cost you $20 a month, due to you having to pay for the Luna subscription of $5 and then Ubisoft subscription of $15. However, comparing Luna and Stadia to the Steam Deck is an immeasurable amount of stupidity. The Steam Deck is not a cloud gaming service, it is new hardware. I love how he's trying to argue that no one wants new hardware, and his 2 examples are fucking cloud gaming services, and both of his examples do not require you to buy new hardware. Both Stadia and Luna can be played on iOS, Android and Windows.
No, it's not possible. Like, the days of gaming hardware are over, right?
Wasn't this guy literally a sentence earlier arguing against Stadia and Luna working, which is where gaming is heading? Hardware won't be going anywhere anytime soon, but it is an undeniable fact that in probably 10 years we'll have started to move to cloud gaming more and more.
Like, we have a single dedicated piece of hardware, you know, the Nintendo one, that is highly successful, that you should be supporting with new, interesting software.
No one should be supporting Nintendo by default. Nintendo isn't deserving of anyone's support at the moment, and to say that people should be supporting it by default is flat out wrong. And the fuck are you on about in regards to new software? The Switch came out in 2017, its software is not new in any way, shape or form. In his logic, you should undeniably be supporting the Steam Deck because of its brand new software, aka SteamOS 3, which is the first version of SteamOS to utilize Proton, and it comes with a brand new UI.
Making your own hardware isn't practical and you can't compete.
Evidently untrue. Clearly Steam is capable of competing, otherwise the Steam Deck reservations wouldn't have been such a huge success. But even though they can compete, Valve isn't trying to. They're merely trying to encourage more hardware manufacturers to come into the handheld gaming market.
Like, it's just not going to work. And seeing Valve like try to make this thing happen, seeing Valve fanboys try to say that like, oh yeah, the OLED won't be able to compete with this masterpiece.
Literally no one is trying to claim this. No one thinks the Steam Deck is suddenly going to wipe out the Switch, and just because the Steam Deck won't sell as well as the Switch, that doesn't make it a failure at all.
Like, you have like people on 4chan like pretending that like this is going to be like a Nintendo. It's not, okay? It's completely irrelevant. It has like, it's just been announced, and it has like what, like 2 million views on YouTube. I just watched a video, an overview of it. The Switch, like, what did the Switch have when it was first unveiled? Like, I want to say like at least 8 times that much, probably more.
Well, yeah, because everyone was waiting for Nintendo to announce it after the total flop of the Wii U. But once again, no one thinks the Steam Deck will wipe the floor with Nintendo in sales figures. And if your only source for that is fucking 4chan, then it's probably someone trolling Nintendo extremists, such as yourself. And unsurprisingly, you fell for it. Damn, my man didn't even get to finish his video properly. Now we have thankfully come to the end of that tragically bad video. So with all that being said, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers love to beg you to do. aka check out my Discord server, my Twitter, as well as like, comment and subscribe. So that I'll see you all in the next video.